Greetings and welcome to this week's Primed Insight. My name is Gavin, Marketing Director here at BlastOne. Today we're going to be talking about selecting the right air spray tip size. First question we're going to ask you is, what viscosity paint are you using? Because the heavier it is, the larger tip you're going to need. So for those high viscosity heavy coatings, you're going to need a larger tip, about a 2mm or up. Those lower viscosity finishing quality high gloss coats, that's when you use a smaller tip, 1.2 to 1.8mm. Industry average is about 1.8. Of course, it always depends on the type of items that you're being painting. If you're using small, or you're painting pipe spool type of work, or you're doing small diameters of pipe, use a 1.2 so you don't waste paint. You're painting the side of a truck, use a 1.8. Then you get extremely small touch-up applications like a small scratch on a piece of equipment. That's when you use a 0.8mm tip. Typically, the data sheet will tell you what air spray tips to use. That will save you having to guess. I want you to understand the importance of having the right size tip. No matter what size gun you're using, what the setup is, regardless of the paint, if you're using a pressure feed gun, like a pressure pot, you need to make sure you have that gentle and consistent flow coming out of the gun to make sure the atomization can work correctly. So when you're setting it up, you hold the paint only coming out of the gun, so you've got between 6 to 9 inches of a straight flow of paint before it starts to curve off. You always set this up when you're in pressure feed guns. Regardless of the gun, regardless of the paint, you always want to make sure you have a gentle and consistent flow. That allows the air atomization to do its job. So if you're painting and you find that you've actually got capacity to go faster, we don't want you to just turn up the paint pressure, because that's going to put too much paint out. You won't get you a decent atomization. What you want to do is actually get a larger tip, which will allow more paint to come out and still have that gentle flow curve. That will get you a better atomization, a better coating every single time, rather than just turning up the pressure. If your tip is too large, you have paint just dripping out, and then you've got to get a smaller size tip. Stepping into air hose size. So it's the air hose that does the work. Don't ever let your gun be starved of air. So when you're running on any pressure feed spray gun, the minimum air supply to your pump should be at least ½ inch. If you're running a suction cup or a suction gun or a cup gun, 3/8 inch is sufficient for up to 50 feet of length. The air supply from the pump to the gun, you can use a 1/4 inch for those finish coats and low viscosity paints. When you're spraying those industrial coatings such as zinc-rich primers or hybrid coatings, you need to use those 3/8 inch hoses. And as a note, please, these hoses are rated to about 150 psi at a minimum. Don't use airless hose. They'll work, but they're far too inflexible. They're designed for 3,000 to 7,500 psi. Final thoughts: a good spray gun is the critical factor for success in painting. We always recommend you have 3 different sets of guns and hoses for air spray. Get a different one for the different types of coatings that you spray. Have a zinc set, have a top coat set, and have that general purpose set used for all those other ones. Thanks for watching this week's Primed Insight. We'll see you next week.